magazine of the screen. Living glimpses of history in the making. Presented as a public service by Standard Oil Company. Russian and Chinese officials arrive at Moscow's railroad station to board the first Moscow Peiping Express, linking the capitals of the world's two greatest communist dictatorships. Passengers must have ticket, passport, and undoubtedly a good word from the secret police for the 9-day trip on the new train, which is sure to follow the Moscow Peiping line. In West Berlin, refugees from the misery of Red tyranny in East Germany wind into relief stations in a never-ending, ever-swelling stream. A hot meal awaits them. The oppressed find freedom as the West welcomes refugees from communism. A group of escapees from behind the Iron Curtain reaches Washington. Foreign Operations Director Stassen greets the youngest arrivals. In a strange new land, the tots are curtsy conscious. Ahead lies the promise that is America. In New York, Mrs. Lygia Georgescu rushes toward a fervent reunion with her two sons, finally freed after being held as hostages for 7 years in Red Romania. Together again, the Georgescus, Constantine, Peter, mother and father, know the blessings of freedom. Students and police clash in Lebanon's capital city of Beirut as communist intrigue reaches into the tense, explosive Middle East. The outnumbered officers struggle to subdue the students who are protesting reported American military aid. A Red-inspired riot rocks the hot strategic land of Lebanon. At the Arch of Triumph in Paris, French Premier Laniel is roughed up by communist demonstrators. Defense Minister Plevon is jostled too by the mob, denouncing the proposed European defense community. Fanned by red propaganda, passions flame and tensions mount in France. In Indochina, an aerial counterattack is mounted to save Dien Bien Phu, reeling under the most savage communist onslaught of the war. Over the surrounded garrison, ammunition, guns, and other supplies are dropped to the heroic defenders under orders to fight to the last man. Paratroops hit the Silk to reinforce the beleaguered fortress, strategic pawn in the biggest battle of the war. Students from 75 colleges gather at the University of California at Los Angeles to debate world issues in their own United Nations Assembly. The students' costumes add to the realistic atmosphere. The Russian delegate has his say, but the representatives vote to support the United States in this collegiate United Nations. Silhouetted against towering snow-capped Mount Hood, skiers soar into space in the North American Championships, high in the Cascade Mountains. Spread-eagling the field and winging to a new hill record, a champion collegian, Billy Olson of Denver University. The smoldering hulk of a British troop ship, ravaged by explosion and fire, lies abandoned in the Mediterranean after one of the greatest sea rescues in history. 1,500 passengers were saved by a mercy armada which raced to the stricken ship, averting a terrible disaster at sea. On land, flames lay siege to a warehouse in Incheon, Korea, where $1 million worth of army goods are stored. The warehouse is lost, but most of the merchandise is saved from the roaring flames. An aerial Noah's Ark, sponsored by the Church World Service Agency, is loaded with 1.5 million honeybees, desperately needed to pollinize and supply honey in war-torn Korea. 100 dairy goats are also making the trip as part of a continuing goodwill plan by American church groups to help restock the basic economy of stricken nations. An act of charity to a faithful ally. General Carter Magruder explains to the first Koreans to resettle north of the 38th parallel how this area will be divided into farms. Eventually, 20,000 families will find homes here. On land once torn by shell fire, they will reap a new harvest from the good earth. Arriving in New York, a choir of Korean war orphans sing How Do You Do?
How do you, ladies? How do you? How do you? How do you, gentlemen? How do you? How do you? We all do to learn we do everything we can. How do you, everybody? How do you do?
Once more, once more.
How do you, ladies? How do you? How do you? How do you, gentlemen? How do you? How do you? We all do to learn we do everything we can. How do you, everybody? How do you do?
Navy ship steamed in late 1952 toward Enewetak Atoll on a momentous mission. The world's first hydrogen bomb, housed in this barn-like building, was to be exploded on a tiny target island named Elugelab. Strange, secret testing devices had been set up to measure mankind's most fearsome weapon. While the task force cruised 50 miles from the doomed island, the seconds ticked closer and closer to the first hydrogen blast on Earth.
Minus 15 seconds. Minus 10 seconds. 9er, 8, 7, 6, 5er, 4, 3, 2, 1, 10.
Watch the shockwave as it rolls toward the flagship. The fixed and boiling cloud surges to a height of 40,000 feet 2 minutes after zero. 10 minutes later, it has snaked skyward 10 miles. Observers fly toward the target center. The islands surrounding Elugelab have been swept almost clean by the fireball flare, which enveloped an area 3 miles wide in the twinkling of an eye. Elugelab is gone. Nothing there but a deep crater and water. From an island that once was, but is no more, out of an ugly mushroom cloud, mankind enters the hydrogen age, an era of danger, of challenge, of opportunity. The Statue of Liberty, known the world over as a symbol of freedom and promise. A gift from the people of France to commemorate their country's close bonds with the colonies during the Revolution, America's Lady of Liberty has stood faithful vigil in New York Harbor for nearly 70 years. Building the towering figure and transporting it across the Atlantic was a monumental task. An artist's sketch made in the 1870s reveals how the statue rose over the rooftops of Paris during its construction. The work was supervised by Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, brilliant French sculptor, who conceived the idea during a visit to New York. The hand and torch were sent to America in 1876 and shown at the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition, marking the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Civil War veterans joined in the patriotic rallies held to raise funds for a pedestal for the statue. In 1885, work began on reassembling the figure, which had been dismantled in France for shipment to the United States in 210 packing cases. The head was completed last. Here, craftsmen working from the inside rivet copper sheeting over the framework of Liberty's 17-foot-high face. By the rocket's red glare, President Cleveland dedicated Miss Liberty in 1886. Today, her torch still throws out its beacon of welcome and hope to all who seek shelter in America. By ferry, more than 500,000 visitors journey each year to Bedloe's Island, on which the copper colossus stands. Countless thousands of youngsters have thrilled to their first glimpse of her. Mounted on a pedestal of concrete and granite, her body fashioned out of metal, she is still every inch a warm, inspiring symbol of man's faith in freedom. Bartoldi's mother was his model for liberty. Working from a 9-foot cast of her in plaster, he computed the dimensions of the proposed statue and constructed it in sections. A news magazine cameraman from the Torch films the New York City skyline more than half a mile away. 300 feet above the bay, here is a camera eye view of the tiny Bedloe's Island, once an army fort with 70 guns and a garrison of 350 men. Visitors can, if they wish, climb inside the statue to the head, which is 10 feet thick and will hold 30 persons. Past Liberty's gallant, ageless lady have come immigrants of all nations. They have found the meaning of the famous sonnet by Emma Lazarus. Mother of exiles, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Granite Wright Brothers Monument, rising out of the sandy, wind-racked wastes at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, marks the birthplace of powered flight. Aviation has traveled fast and far in the eventful years since the moment of Orville Wright's first flight in 1903. From then to now, the history of aviation has been a record of magnificent achievement. America, first to conquer the air, has given wings to the world. Old eyes can only marvel at new jets streaking man at supersonic speeds on his skyward course. The Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville, they were first to master the invisible sea of swirls and currents, which seemed determined to batter down anything that tried to fly. Their story began, however, far from Kitty Hawk, in Dayton, Ohio, where they had lived since boyhood. Here, the Wrights, without even a high school education, were first gripped with the dream of building a machine that would fly. Daily, Orville and Wilbur were seen striding briskly along Hawthorne Street to and from their white frame house. Poring over every available book on the theory of flight, they lived in this typical turn-of-the-century American home. Its simple, modest setting reflected their tastes, revealing clues to the character of the two shy, obscure brothers. Yet in less than a decade of study and experiment, they were to solve a mystery which had challenged man for centuries. Down the street from their house was the Wright Cycle Company, where they sold, repaired, and later manufactured their own bicycles. Here, too, the brothers, who already had made hundreds of successful glider flights, built the world's first airplane. Night after night, they labored in their crude laboratory. When the odd little machine was finished, they went to barren, lonely Kitty Hawk to see if it would fly. The Wright brothers' hangar and workshop have been rebuilt in authentic detail. Inside, tools hang as they did a half-century ago, and neatly arranged, too, is their combination kitchen, pantry, and dining room. A boulder marks the spot where man first flew. An early vintage airplane recalls that historic moment during the golden anniversary celebration of flight at Kitty Hawk. Billy Parker, one of America's pioneer airmen, prepares to take off in the sky flivver he built in 1915 and has been flying ever since. A relic of the past takes us back 50 years. Orville Wright was but 32, and his brother Wilbur had left 36, when in 12 airborne seconds at Kitty Hawk, they changed the course of human history. Here, Wilbur readies their plane for a takeoff. No movie cameraman filmed the epic first flight of this homemade machine with its 12-horsepower engine. These pictures were made a short time later. Theodore Roosevelt, in a precarious perch beside the pilot, became the first president to fly. The old Rough Rider's enthusiastic reaction converted many skeptics to aviation. Soon water was being used for takeoffs and landings as the first seaplanes took to the sky. America's foremost aviatrix was Ruth Law, one of 7 U.S. women pilots licensed before World War I. Her aerial exploits electrified the country in an era when the ladies did not even have the right to vote. With the increasing use of aircraft, factories began turning them out in large numbers. World War I accelerated man's conquest of the air. Combat planes had to be speedy and sturdy to survive in dogfights with the enemy. The first airmail service was an important development during the last year of the war. Army pilots flew the initial route from New York to Philadelphia and Washington. In 1919, Navy flying boats blazed an aerial trail across the Atlantic, starting a series of flights which were to change man's concepts of time and space. Billy Mitchell, a prophet before his time, believed bomb-carrying planes could sink naval ships. In 1921, he arranged an amazing demonstration of air power. Army planes dumped their bombs on obsolete battleships. Mortally wounded, one of the ships slid out of sight. The first naval vessel sunk from the air. The others followed soon after. Billy Mitchell was right. Commander Richard E. Byrd and Floyd Bennett launched a new era of geographical discovery with their first great polar exploration flight in 1926. Leaving Kings Bay, Spitsbergen in a tri-motored transport, the 2 aerial adventurers flew to the North Pole, now below, and back in 16 hours. Many others were to follow the sky trails of the first man to fly over both the North Pole and the South Pole, Admiral Byrd. Charles Lindbergh, seen with his mother, undertook aviation's most memorable flight in 1927. Ordering out his plane on a chilly May morning, the young airmail pilot announced his intention of flying from New York to Paris alone. With the spirit of St. Louis groaning under a tremendous fuel load, he barely cleared the power lines at the edge of the field. An excited throng surged over Le Bourget Airport in Paris, wildly cheering America's lone eagle. He had completed his historic 3,600-mile flight in 34 hours. On his return to America, New York gave Lindy a welcome that has never been equaled in the city's history. Amid a blizzard of ticker tape, New Yorkers poured out their admiration and affection for a quiet hero whose solo flight led the way for the thousands of routine crossings that were to follow. This day, the world belonged to Lucky Lindy. In 1928, Sir Hubert Wilkins soared over the top of the world on the first trans-Arctic flight from Alaska to Spitsbergen. A reception committee awaited them. Eskimo youngsters. The late 20s produced the endurance flyers. Although refueling in midair was a hazardous task, some of them managed to remain aloft for weeks. Amelia Earhart, proving women could match men in skill and daring, crossed the Atlantic alone in 1932. As they had Lindbergh, New Yorkers took Lady Lindy to their hearts. Wiley Post, too, after completing the first solo flight around the world, received the city's acclaim. World War II proved the military importance of air power. While aviation had played a minor role in 1918, supremacy in the skies was to become the key to Allied victory. Wave after wave of bombers roared across the channel, battling on their way the enemy aircraft that darted after them like deadly wasps. Rumbling on, the giant ships dropped their cargoes of devastation. The war gave birth to low-level bombers. Winging over the ramparts of Fortress Europe and on across the countryside, they droned relentlessly toward their targets. In both Europe and the Pacific, Allied airmen punished the opposition with precision from in close. Around the clock, the bombers carried out their dangerous missions, crippling the Axis nerve centers, proving in the garish glare of bursting bombs that the airplane, as a weapon of destruction, was awesomely effective. With war's end, propeller-driven aircraft yielded to jet-powered planes. Restless man had found a revolutionary new means of streaking still faster, higher, and farther. Inside a B-29 one day in 1953, Captain Charles Yeager, first man to break through the sound barrier, slid into a rocket-powered XS-1 snuggled against the mother plane. Dropping away under its own power, the skyrocket is soon plunging earthward at almost 1,400 miles an hour, twice the speed of sound, a world record. Refueled 4 times in flight, a B-50 has circled the globe non-stop. The Azores were first, Saudi Arabia next, and the Philippines third. A final refueling over Hawaii, then home again to Fort Worth. In an ever-shrinking world, the newest jet aircraft, like those used during the Korean War, are graphic evidence of the ambition, skill, and high courage with which man has pursued his journey toward the stars. Yes, we have come far since the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk. Yet the future holds still many new challenges. Where now? What next in man's conquest of the skies?